what is the 77th monthly webinar in our Building My Business webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Social Media for Dealers, and it will be presented by Andy Slowetsky, who is President of Industry Analysts, Inc. So if you have questions along the way, just type them in, using your GoToWebinar control panel on your screen, and I will read your question aloud to Andy to address at the end of his presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Andy. Andy?
Thank you, Brent. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm in sunny New Jersey today, and I'm glad you guys could all join us. We're going to spend about an hour reviewing social media for copier, printer dealers, and resellers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of talk to you about social media, what it means, what the opportunities are, and what I think you guys as a dealer community could be doing to use it for your advantage, and maybe grab some new opportunities that you haven't focused on or seen out there in the past. Just a little bit of background about me and about us. We were established in 1974, 40 years old this year. We're known primarily for market research, product testing, dealer training, and more so lately for our newsletter. It's the What's Happening report. Most of you, if not all of you, probably receive it already. If you don't, you can contact me through Brent, and we'll get you signed up. It's a free newsletter, comes out a couple times a week, and just gives you a really nice overview on just everything going on in the industry with all the different brands, from solutions, production equipment, office equipment, just all the brands you sell, all the brands you compete against. It's just a good way to keep yourself updated, and there's some fun and interesting pieces in there as well. A little bit about me before we get into it. I started selling copiers in the early 90s. I sold for a Xerox agency for a while, then I sold for Icon. Came back to join my dad in the mid-90s, and been working here ever since. So I do have a pretty good background in your world, in the copier world. I go to all the dealer meetings. I go to most of the trade shows, all the big trade shows anyways. And so I have a pretty good understanding and background on the industry. Doing this newsletter a couple times a week really keeps me kind of abreast on what's going on. And I guess am becoming sort of a bit of a de facto social media guru, just in what we've been doing internally with our newsletter and with some of the other objectives that we've had for the past couple of years. Our newsletter is over 16,000 people, thousands and thousands of feet on the street. It's got a global reach, but most of it's in the U.S. And we run the biggest LinkedIn group for copiers in the world. I can get you the link for that as well, and if you guys wanted to check that out, a lot of really engaging conversations in there. We do a lot of Twittering, a lot of Facebook. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over each of these different, what I consider different areas of importance with respect to social media as it applies to your businesses. So social media, what is it and why should you care? So, over the past several years, the internet is really just in so many ways affected every aspect of our lives. And one of the ways that it's really affected us, for good or for bad, is socially. What it's done is it's really kind of connected everybody. There are certain websites that have evolved into both website and an application that would be on your phone, an app, right? Just trying to think of a way to sort of tie that together. But essentially, these two components are allowing people to sort of communicate, join groups, join people that are have things in common with them, whether it's you like the same sports team, or you're interested in recipes, or you're on Facebook and you're reconnecting with people that you grew up with. What it's done is it's really just in a new way brought the world together at a much higher level. Back in the old days, you had the village square, and everybody would meet there at certain times, and you would share ideas, you would share food, you would share music. You would interact with other people, and so social media has sort of taken that concept, and I don't know whether it was intentional, but some of these websites, I think it probably was. The idea is to create global communities, sort of in a way, in a fashion that we saw with that that traditional village square from from the last several hundreds of years. So what it's done is because of the way that we all communicate and some of these different websites work is they allow us to just sort of post our feelings, post our thoughts, put our ideas out there for other people to see and let other people comment on them. It allows people to sort of facilitate conversations and dialogues. What it's done is it gave everybody a voice, and so that this happened over the last several years as the internet really took off. The next phase of this was the proliferation of smartphones, and I've seen a couple of different statistics for it. It doesn't matter which one you go with. The highest one is the one I went with, which is today about 2/3 of Americans now own smartphones. The low end of that I've seen is about 57%. So even if it's somewhere between 60 and 70%. About 2/3 of Americans own smartphones, and why that is so important is the difference between a smartphone and a traditional cell phone. Obviously, the cell phone will let you make phone calls, but the smartphone, what it did was it allowed people not only to get online, go to those websites, but several of the key smartphones, specifically the Android platform and the Apple platform, allowed for the creation of apps from applications, which we shorten and abbreviate and call apps, from a lot of these websites, and even from companies that have no website. It's just all of their content, all of their information exists on these apps that are these small programs running on your smartphone. What it did was it just made it incredibly easy for people to put those thoughts out there for other people to see. Allowed them to communicate and to go back and forth and get these dialogues going, to get these conversations moving. So my point of all of this is, whether you believe it or whether you believe it in or not, your customers, some of them do, and to ignore that group of customers out there, that growing group, in my opinion, that that are using this medium is really doing yourself a disservice. More importantly, we've got to take a look at who we are as an industry, as a reseller community. And you guys are selling technology. You are, technology consultants. Your job is to go into an organization and explain to these people how your products can improve their workflows, can improve their processes, can take steps out because you're selling technology. And in my opinion, when you're selling technology, if you're going to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. And to have no strategy when it comes to social media, to be doing nothing when it comes to search engines and where you come up, is really just, you're leaving money on the table. And we're going to discuss how I think, you might be able to improve upon that, and maybe some areas where you are doing some things, but maybe you haven't thought of other ways that you can use some of these social media websites and services. So what it does is social media gives you guys the opportunity to change the way people look at you, change the way people perceive you. It's, your reputation is out there, your market presence is out there. What customers are saying about you are out there. How they're finding you is critical, and that all comes back to your social media strategy. What impression do people have about you from social media? Whether it's, what do I think about this Copier dealer based on my visit to their website, or what am I seeing about them online? What am I hearing in some of the chat rooms? What am I hearing? Not necessarily chat rooms. I don't think people use those so much anymore. But what's the buzz? What am I seeing in some of the forums, or what am I seeing posted in some of the review websites, which we'll discuss as well? And these are all things. Some of them are in your control, but some of them are not in your control. But you should be aware of what's going on, and hiding your head in the sand and just letting it go by you and not pay attention to it is a surefire way to just get yourself smacked in the face with something that you might not have even been aware was out there or an issue. You could have a customer, could be a good customer out there having a really bad day and just picks up their phone or is on on their computer, types up something real quick and just blogs it or posts it on their website or posts it on Yelp, which is a review website where people will review local businesses like yours. So you really, my point in all of this is going to be, and I'm going to kind of give you sort of a a list of things, a sort of a checklist of what you need to do, what you can do in order to stay on top of things, and maybe where you might want to invest a little bit with respect to making sure that your reputation is sound and that you're doing everything you can to make sure that people in your market are seeing you in a positive light. And social media is a great way to do that. First of all, most of the social media out there, at a certain level, at a certain point, it's free. Back in the days of trying to buy your way to the top of the Yellow Page ad, right? I mean, that's how you did it, right? You spent more money than the next guy, than the next company, and the hope was that your customers will look everybody up in that phone book and see, your company has this massive ad, and they'll just psychologically or subliminally think to themselves, wow, that must be a really good company. And this is no different than that. And you can say that's silly, and the size of that ad had nothing to do with how good your company really was, and you're right. But most of you probably played that game, and the successful dealers out there probably at the end of the year budgeted a little bit more money that following year to make that ad a little bigger than the next guy's. Because if you could just get 1 or 2 more deals on a first impression, it was totally worth the money. And we're going to talk about some areas where you guys are able to do that. Some free, some where you may want to spend money and get some expertise in to help you guys sort of navigate through the process of creating an online, a virtual impression of your company, so that in the out there in the cloud, in the ether, people who are looking you up at 11 o'clock at night, that they're seeing positive things about you. And there's so much that you can do. I mean, the problem is, where do you pick and choose to focus your energies? And we'll get to that a little bit. There's some that are better than others, but the bottom line with all of this is this is not an easy fix. This is not something that you turn around, snap your fingers, and the next day you're all set and running and your social media strategy is perfect. This is a long grind, and it's something you need to stay on top of, and month in, month out, you need to continue to update, you need to continue to make sure that you're creating the impression of your company out there that you want to be, in a way that you want to be perceived. So the first one we're going to start with, the first area I think is, not so new, but still incredibly important. It's search engines. So Google, Bing, others that are out there, Ask Jeeves or Ask Now it's called. I like to refer to this as sort of the Yellow Pages of life. Right? The search engine is how you find everything in your life. And I can't tell you the last time I looked at a phone book. The last time I looked at one, actually, was when they dropped it off. I picked it up off my front step and put it directly into the recycling bin. Why? Because I don't need it. I don't want to go look, and maybe it's because I'm younger. I know parents still love their phone book. But my kids, I don't think have ever used one in their entire life, and I don't think they ever will. When they want to look up the address or the phone number or the name of a company, they go to Google, and it's on their phone. It's quicker to pull a phone out of your pocket and just pull it up than it is to go find the phone book, flip through the pages, find the number, then dial in the number. Most places now, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you're using smartphones, you probably have, when you go to push a phone number, when you pull up a website or a company and a search on Google, you just have to tap the phone number and your phone will automatically dial it. So no more writing things down, no more transitioning from the book to your phone, no more having to physically look things up. And now that phone number is stored and you can go back to it, and it's just easier, and we've evolved. And so like the way we've evolved and the way that we work and the way that we use the internet, you guys need to evolve in the way that you market your organizations. You can't just do it the same way and expect the same level of results. I would never tell you not to use the phone book and to put your money in there, but I could see a lot more bang for your buck, putting your resources and spending your money, your ad money somewhere else. This is the way people find you. They find the local companies, they find the vendors, they find the manufacturers, they find not just who to buy the copier from, but they'll go and find all they need to know about the copier. I'm sure your reps can, any salespeople on this call, can affirmate this, that going into an account, there's a lot of customers who already know all about that machine. They're asking you about it before you pull out your first brochure. And it's just because the internet, again, coming back to that, has given this ability to really just do this incredible amount of research on just about anything that we want, right? So, the customers will do the research on the machines that you're selling. You may leave a brochure, they'll go back and they'll look online to see what other people are saying about it. You really have no control over the hardware. You have no control over the solutions that you resell. What you do have control over is you being that local organization, and helping people who are looking for copiers understand who your company is. Pictures of the people you're working with, names of the people, of the sales reps and pictures of them, or pictures of your offices. One of the things I think is critical and is a huge opportunity with social media is today, we really, I think, are at a point where personalizing your company has become an extremely valuable and important resource for you as far as, trying to get yourself to stand out from your competition. People have looked at copier resellers, and not just copier resellers, but all businesses just being businesses. And one of the things that some of the more successful social media companies have some of the most successful companies have done with respect to social media is just getting mileage out of it. Just being able to put a post up on Twitter. Just put a thought out on Twitter that gets picked up and goes viral, and suddenly people are sending it all over the world. I'm sure you've all seen a commercial that went viral, or you've seen something funny or cute on YouTube, or you've seen maybe just a really clever ad that was just an ad. It wasn't even, it was a static ad, but people sent it around because or maybe it was on Facebook and people shared it, and that's the jackpot. I'm not suggesting that you're ever going to get to the point where you're putting out ads that are going to go viral, and if you did, that would be great. But for the purposes that you're trying to achieve, that's not necessarily the end game. For you, it's a consistent grind to put your name out there as much as possible. What we have now with social media is this opportunity for branding in our marketplaces, in our community, at a level and in a way that we probably never had. And there's so many places that people turn, and no two people are alike. I might look things up on Yelp. Somebody else might look things up on another one called Urban Spoon, and we're talking about restaurants now. But somebody might look up copier companies on YouTube, on Google, and another person might use Bing. There's just different places you turn for. But the point of this is, you want to use these services to really create this feeling of, we're not a company, my company is almost a person, right? So that people want to do business with you, that they want to like you, that you're the local guys, you're giving out baseball tickets and people know about it, or maybe you're contributing to a fundraiser, or maybe your whole team is participating in a walk. You're doing stuff like this anyway, but this is just a super, super easy way for you to publicize it. And think back to the effort and the amount of money that you spend or used to spend to just put yourself in an ad on like the 10 o'clock news to make sure you're out there once a week or a couple times a week for 30 seconds. And you never really had any way to measure the amount of success on that. But part of it was, we want people to see us and hear our names over and over again, so that they're so familiar with it that maybe when they do go to call for looking for putting bids out or RFPs or whatnot, maybe they say, let's call that guy's company. We heard that, the ABC Copier company. I've heard that jingle so many times. They must be huge because I feel like they're everywhere. And this is the way that you guys are able to sort of make sure that you're everywhere. And search engines is a great way to start. You want to make sure that you come up as high as possible in your local search engine results. That is done through what we call SEO, search engine optimization. You may have someone on staff that's good at this, and if so, leverage that talent and get them working on this. This is one of the most important things your business has going for it. And so what is it? And Wikipedia, if you're not familiar with Wikipedia, it's an online sort of an online encyclopedia dictionary of just about everything in the world, and I reference it a lot in this. I thought it was appropriate, right? But I reference it a lot in this presentation to kind of give you guys an idea of some descriptions. So, what do they say SEO is? It's the process of affecting the visibility of a website through the natural or unpaid organic search results. And this is the key to your world, right? We're talking about organic. There's two ways for you to appear at the top of the search results. Like when I put in Copiers, Rochester, you want to be the guy that comes up first, or first, second, or third at least. And there's two ways you do that. One is you could be in the ad space. If you've ever done a Google search, and probably all of you have, you'll notice in the search results you've got a few results at the top that will say ads next to it, and they will be targeted towards your search. And they may not be the most popular, they may not be the most clicked on, but that means that that company spent the money to make sure that their name came up on top. Organic is the other side of that, which is somebody understood what they were doing. They understand how the crawlers work within the search engines to make sure that you come up first or high up in the searches. And so somebody did their research, or hired somebody who understood how to manipulate this and make sure that their company came up high. And you want one or the other. You want, or both. You want to make sure that you are coming up at the top of your results. One way is to buy yourself at the top, to the top. The other way is to bring on somebody or hire some specialist to do that for you. And that's hugely important. I can't stress that enough. This is equivalent to having that. Brent and I were joking before, at the beginning of the call, but equivalent to sort of that, back in the 80s and 90s, everybody was coming up with all these different copier names, and everybody had the name AAA copiers. My company was ADS. Everyone wanted an A in their name, right? Because why? It made you come up at the beginning of copiers. You were one of the first ones listed. So if you were going to cheap out and you just didn't believe or have the money to spend on a massive half-page or full-page phone book ad, you wanted to be near the top, and another good way to do that was to do something like AAA copiers or something along those lines. That's kind of where we're at now in the SEO world. You've got to stay on top of it. You've got to see where you land. But now it's not necessarily about having a name that starts with an A. It's about having that guy or that girl working for you or on contract that makes sure that you guys are coming up. And I'll give you an example about why this is so important and how just in general people are not doing this, and it's a great opportunity for you. I'm in Rochester, or I'm from Rochester. I'm not there right now. I did a search in my local community for this presentation just to show you exactly what happens, what the search is like and the results are like. So I did Copiers Rochester. You can see up at the top you've got as ad next to Sharp Xerox. Those are all companies that paid for it. There's one on the right for Samsung. If you look down a little ways, you can see the top two. They're hard to read here. You'll be able to see it more clearly if you download the presentation later. But the top two are just yellow pages, and those are tough to get higher than those. Those are just saying, if you want to look up Copier leasing in Rochester with reviews, here's the link for it. If you want to look up Copier repair and get the names of all these companies, that's the link. The first Copier company that comes up organically is Copycat from copycatinc.com. And I can tell you, being from Rochester, this is not who I would expect to be number one in my community. I would think Xerox would be number one. I would think Toshiba, who has arguably their biggest and most successful branches in Rochester. I would think Toshiba might be number one. We have an Icon location. I would think Icon might be number one. I would not think the number one company would be some copier dealer that I really don't know. I mean, I don't know everybody, but these guys are in my own backyard, and I don't know them. I don't believe they're authorized for any of these products that they sell. I think my understanding is that they run a pretty successful reseller business. They probably do pretty well, but are they a 10, 20, 30, $50 million dealer? No way. And yet, when your customer in Rochester, when a customer does a search for copiers in Rochester, the top one that comes up is them. And in my mind, if I'm not in this industry, if I don't know authorized and non-authorized, if I don't know that I'm looking at a company that's really doing refurbs, I would look at them, and the impression that I would have, at least until I got to their website and saw that it's not the fanciest website, but my first impression would be, wow, these guys must be pretty big and successful if they're getting up there at that level. And that's my whole point of all this. You need to be at that level. You need to be the top 1 or 2 or 3. in your market. And, I don't know where you are. You may not know where you are. But this is the kind of thing that you need to be monitoring. This is what you need to do. You need to go online. You need to do these searches in the markets that you service and see where you come up. And that's going to kind of help you. This is one of the first steps in a game plan to sort of, help you guys improve where you're coming up. Now, the easiest way to do this in my book is to find somebody, locally, or maybe not even locally. You don't have to be local to do this job, but you want somebody who's good at it, who's effective at it. You're going to hire this person, and they're going to work with you back and forth to make sure that you come up not just for copiers, but in all the products and services that you sell, right? If you sell managed services, you want to come up in that. If you sell servers, you want to come up in that. If you sell water, you want to come up in that. But you want to make sure that you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck with this guy. He's going to do it not just for copiers, but for all your products and services. And you want to make sure that you come up in all the in the top spot in all of these. That's the goal. Now, is it achievable? No, because you've got several people probably on this call that are all in the same room, and it's just not reasonable to think that I'm going to be able to be number one in every single category. But I certainly would expect that if I'm putting in some dollars and some effort, that I should at least be able to get into the top three, at least in most markets. Maybe some of the really big ones are going to be more challenging. Maybe I'll have to spend more. So, what you're going to do is you're going to hire this person, and again, I mentioned it, I'm going to say it 1,000 times on this call, this is a grind. You guys are not going to get to the number one spot in a week or in a day or in a month. This is something that could take 6 months, it could take a year. You are able to watch the progress, though, I would give it a month or two, and if you haven't started moving up the chain, I would either have your search engine expert try a new strategy, or I would just find a new expert. Don't sign yourself into anything long term, and don't be afraid to jump ship. There's no loyalty here until you find somebody who who's getting the job done. This is totally important. I actually just talked to a dealer. He might be on this call at the Kyocera meeting recently, and he told me this is a good benchmark for you guys. He spends about $500 a month for this. He was nowhere in the list, and he's in a pretty significant market, and he's a pretty significant dealer, and he was just not coming up. And so he went out, he got somebody on board. He contracts it out, and he spends about $500 a month, and now he's literally in the top three of just about every search that he wants done. Again, $500 a month. But he said since he started doing this, he can point back and say that he's getting at least 2 to 3 more leads per month just from people calling in. I'm not going to say it's going to pay for itself, but to me that seems like something that kind of pays for itself over and over again. And then you just that's the people who just called you out of the blue. You don't know how that sways anybody else who was already talking to you, but maybe wanted to see how you come up. I wanted to see who I'm doing business with. I mean, you guys, especially the ones on this call with a with a really nice showroom, you're always trying to get people to come back for your to see your showroom. Why? Because it's a way for you to show off yourself and for you to show people that you're successful and you've got a nice place, and you've got good people, and you've got more than just one person working here, and you're a legitimate operation, and you're an authorized dealer for your brand or brands. And this is really the exact same idea, right? I mean, you want to create this impression of success, create this feeling, this vision that you are a company that I would want to do business with. I don't want to do business with this company that comes up 3 pages or 5 pages down. If you're not coming up in the first page, especially towards the top, you're not coming up. I mean, you're not being called. People are looking at you like you're just not, you don't know what you're doing. And you may know what you're doing with copiers, but this is just a critical area that you guys need to address. So the SEO plan, action plan, I mentioned it, right? Conduct a Google search. Do searches like copiers, Rochester, New York, printers, copiers, printers, Rochester, New York, services, and so on and so on. Whatever it is that you offer, whatever it is that you want people to do a search and say, this is the company I want to work for or work with. So that's the first step. Take note of where you're coming up. Take note of where your competitors are coming up. You may look at somebody's SEO, you look at the results and click on their website and say, wow, they're That's amazing. And if you scroll to the bottom, a lot of times some people will put the company that developed their website, and I mean, it might be somebody worth calling. I don't know. I don't know how you find somebody. Word of mouth, talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends. But the key is you do need to find somebody. Get their references and look and see, if you get a couple of bids from a few people. Again, you don't want this to be a one-shot thing. You don't want to work with somebody on a one-off basis where they're going to set it up, do it, and then, they'll come back in a year and redo it. You want to work with somebody monthly. You want somebody changing this stuff even more often than monthly if that's fits into your budget and your game plan. This is something that needs constant attention. And so, definitely take the time to find the right person to do it. And make sure that you look at some of the references that they gave you and see where they come up, see where these companies come up. I mean, they can give you lots of references, and then you click on a couple of them, and all of a sudden, they're not on the first page of Google. This person's not somebody you want to work with. But, if you find someone who's good, maybe take even that next step and call that customer and say, hey, did you work with this developer, Dan? He gave me your name as a reference, and I'm thinking of working with you guys. It's worth the phone call, because if you find someone good, you're going to want to lock in with them for a long time. And then down the road, after a year, after 18 months, even after 2 years, maybe you top out, maybe you're starting to fall again. Things change in this industry. The rules change on Google all the time. They change on Facebook all the time. And, maybe the person was good 2 years ago. Maybe, it was a side job for them and they don't keep up with it as much. So you're going to want to stay on top of this. You're going to want to do your own searches on a regular basis to monitor how successful these guys are at getting you set up. Definitely worth the money. I mentioned organic versus ad-based. That's an internal conversation for you. That's how much do you want to spend, and philosophically, what do you think is better? Is it organic? Does it make you look better if it looks like people you're getting to the top of the list because everybody's clicking on you, or does it make you look just like the biggest and best if you just said, I'm just going to buy the top spot and be there every time? Like I said, don't be afraid to switch if you're not getting the results you want. So the next one I want to focus on, LinkedIn. And most of you, hopefully all of you, have a LinkedIn account. So LinkedIn is a social media platform. Wiki defines it as a business-oriented social media service. There's 65 million monthly users. It's accessed online as well as through an app. I can tell you, it's weird how I use mine. I mean, I use my phone and my computer for literally all of these things. But some of them I definitely do more on the computer than I do on the phone. LinkedIn is one, for whatever reason, I do more on the computer, but it doesn't matter how you do it. It's just a matter, what matters is that you are doing it. So the idea is, how can you use it? So what is LinkedIn? So LinkedIn is a place where I can go to network with other people that are like me, other people in the copier industry. You guys are all free to add me, and we can become buddies on LinkedIn. I'll accept anybody from the industry. But the other kind of cool thing about LinkedIn is there are a lot of other aspects of it that I don't think people necessarily get into. They think, I just want to do it for the networking. I want to do it. People kind of equate it to just a great place to put your resume and hope that somebody finds you and gives you, some amazing job. But really, it's an incredible tool, and you should, pay attention to this segment, because there are a lot of good little nuggets in this that I think you'll walk away from this thinking, I really needed to pay more attention to LinkedIn. So it's connections to not just colleagues, but it's connections to your customers. There are groups on LinkedIn. If you haven't spent any time on it, my group I mentioned earlier, Copiers, Printers, and MFPs, it's the biggest copier printer group in the world. And some really good, engaging conversations on there. The one that was actually one of the more recent ones, and it's really blowing up right now, is there's a conversation that somebody started about the OfficeJet Pro X inkjet device versus laser printers. And it was amazing to me, because you had people from both sides chiming in, some people placing large numbers of these inkjets and talking about their experience. And, so if you're considering, memjet strategy, an HP strategy, if you're considering, if you got a customer who's considering that, great place to turn and look and see what people are saying about it that are out there experiencing it. So join groups of interest, join my group, join other groups like it. There's managed print services ones, there's groups from your vendors, there's groups from other analyst firms. It's just, you can always get rid of them later. You can change settings so that, sometimes joining these groups, you'll start receiving emails and updates, or you can receive emails and updates from your groups that you join, just to tell you what's going on, what's been posting, what the hot topics are. There are settings that you can change to turn that on or turn that off. There are job postings. There's a good place for you guys to maybe post job openings for you. Maybe some of you might find jobs. I don't know. But bottom line is there's just a ton of really good information about our industry, our community on LinkedIn. The next part of LinkedIn I want to kind of focus on is something that I really think is hugely underutilized out there, and I think especially in our world in sales, this is a jackpot trove full of information. Your reps should all be using this. I would make sure that every one of your reps has a LinkedIn account. I would mandate it. And beyond that, I would tell them that they need to not just have one, but they really need to do what they can to get some people signed up. The one thing I think is worse than seeing somebody with no LinkedIn account is when somebody is an executive at a big company like one of your companies, and I look them up on LinkedIn and I see they have 2 or 3 connections, and I say to myself, here's a guy that just doesn't get it. And it might be that you're just too busy. Doesn't matter what your reason is. Maybe you just don't believe in it. Maybe you don't want to have anything to do with social media, which is okay. But you're a salesperson running a sales organization, and the impressions that are being made on you and about you and about your company, I perceive what I'm seeing about you online from LinkedIn. I'm judging you. I'm judging the size of your organization. Your technical prowess. All of these things just based on what I'm seeing. So, add a bunch of people right off the bat. You want to get 20, 30, 50, 100. I mean, ultimately, a good sales rep should have a ton of connections, right? Every one of your customers should eventually be a LinkedIn member if they have a LinkedIn account. And over time, you'll build it up. But, to me, when I see a senior executive, whether it's, one of you guys or even one of the manufacturers, you see one of these senior executives like a VP at a Konica or a Ricoh or a Sharp who's got like nothing on LinkedIn, you think to yourself, wow, here's a dinosaur that was probably really, may really get the copier industry but doesn't understand what's going on outside it. So make sure that you all get yourself these accounts, right? Now the key to LinkedIn is not just that. I mean, that's the impression that you're trying to create. That's why you drive a nice car a lot of times. You want people to think that you're successful. It doesn't matter that you feel like you do need a nice car, you deserve a nice car. The bottom line is you don't drive up in a jalopy because you want people to think here's a successful person. He didn't get that car handed to him by being a terrible copier rep. So what we're going to do as a sales rep is we're going to use this to do a little for cold calling purposes. We're going to do background researches on our customers. What you're going to do is you're going to tell them, do a search on a company. Do a search. The example I'm going to use here is BTA. I did a search. I just want to show you exactly the process. So I did a search on BTA. You can see in the circle here, here's what comes up. I click on BTA. Here's their web page. Every company should have a web page. Your companies should each have a web page. There's a very, very simple process in LinkedIn that will allow you to set it up. You don't have to make it fancy, but you know what? If your customer goes there and looks for your company and can't find you, you may find somebody else. So don't give them that opportunity. It takes 5 minutes for you or somebody at your company to do it. And then have your people who work there connect to it. Because now you've got more people. The more people who connect to it, the bigger things get with your LinkedIn presence. And that helps you. But it's a great way for people to look you up and see who you are and find your website and find your headquarters and your company address and what brands you sell, et cetera, et cetera. But also, for your purposes, on the other side of this, it's a great way for you to see who your customers are. So let's say you want to go sell to the BTA. You look them up. Here's their information. Well, now you've got their website. You've got their headquarters. You've got, the size of the company. You've got when it was founded. And oh, bam, here you go. You've got all these names over here. If you look at the very bottom of that, it's hard to see at the bottom of the circle. It says see all. Now, it just lists right here the ones I'm connected to. But when I click see all, it's going to list all the people in that BTA that are connected to the BTA website. So go a little further, I clicked on see all, and now I've got Valerie's name and Elizabeth and Brian and Mary and all these people that I know. But oh, guess what? I have this guy, Brent Hoskins, and he's the executive director of BTA. So now when I'm a sales rep, instead of calling up and saying, hi, I'm Andy calling from Automated Digital Systems, can I please speak to the person in charge of your copiers? Now I call up and I say, hi, is Brent there? You know, and you've got your foot so much farther in the door of that account just because you spent 5 minutes on LinkedIn trying to look up a little bit of information. And maybe you feel a little stalkery, maybe you feel like, you know, I shouldn't be doing this, but you know what? Brent put this information out there. You didn't. So go find out who Brent is. Before you make that call, click on Brent's name. You know, do a little bit of background research. We can see here where he lives. We can see where he works. We can see his position, how long he's been in that position, where he went to college. All this information we're able to get. You're going to start filling in your CRM with all the information that you learned off of Brent: name, title, how long he worked there, where did he work before, where he went to college, top skills. You know, just all the information here. You never know what you might wind up with. Maybe he's connected to another customer of yours, a happy customer of yours that would be glad to give him a reference. Maybe he's in groups that are common with yours. Maybe he went to college where you went to college. You know, all these things that you can put in your back pocket so that you can use that to try as a basis for trying to get yourself an appointment. I am going to get through this. I'm sorry if I go over. I can be very chatty for those of you who know me, or you're not going to be surprised. You know, I see it's 20 of right now, but I'm just going to keep going. I will try to stick to the time as much as possible, but I'll stay on afterwards so we can do some Q&A as well. So I apologize if we're going to go over a little bit, but you know, it's good information. I think the guys, you know, the ones of you who stay on will, you know, feel that it was worth it. So again, back to this. Use LinkedIn as a way to fill in your CRM. You know, do your background research, know your customer before you meet them, and then reference any of these common connections, maybe your family, maybe their friends, colleagues, happy customers, colleges, just, you know, name drop, just whatever information you can get your CRM, I mean, completely filled in except for, you know, the products and the number of copiers and what brands they are. Just about every other piece of information you need on that customer is going to be on that LinkedIn page. And some of the information that's not there, you know, you can always turn back to their website and research them there, which your rep should be doing as well. But my point is, LinkedIn is a huge resource for this. People go out and put their name on in a form and put it right in front of you. And it's just almost criminal for you and your sales reps not to be nailing this every single time that they go, before they go into a sales call. You know, look up your customer. Look up. Information's power, and it's all sitting here at your fingertips. And I guarantee you most of the people on this call aren't preparing for their sales calls, or your reps are not preparing for your sales calls by using LinkedIn in this manner. People still see LinkedIn as just being a way for me to just network. And you know, networking parties are great, and you can pick up a customer here and there, but LinkedIn is tough to do that with. And the real gem that is LinkedIn for your purposes is for this. And you know, all these social media platforms that we're discussing here, they're all used differently by different people for different purposes. You know, what I'm suggesting is, in my expertise or in my time using, you know, these platforms, you know, here are some of the ways I feel like they fit in your world. We talked about your company profile. I'm not gonna beat on that again, but you know, again, you do want to make sure you have that set up, because I think it makes you look, you know, really inadequate if you are just kind of lame, like just almost a non-player in my community. If you don't even have a LinkedIn page or a web page, and you're not coming up in the search engines, you know, you could be just anybody. How do I know who you are? Why should I call you? Give me a reason. You know, if to me the reason is they have a good LinkedIn page, they have a good web page, they come up high in the search engine, then that investment you made paid off, and I'm going to call you. And I may not call 5 or 10 other people who came up on that second and third and fourth page of that LinkedIn search and that groups, or of that search engine search. So let's move over to Twitter. A little bit of discussion on what Twitter is. It's an online social networking and microblogging service. Basically, it allows you to put your thoughts out there on this platform in 140 character text message bursts called tweets, right? So I can't put a full thought out there. I can't put more than, you know, a few words or essentially 140 letters onto any one tweet. I can do links. I can put, you know, links to my website, links to a video, but you'll want to use these things called bit shorteners, which are special websites, web services that you can go to. Your people setting this up will know what it is, where you can shorten a really long website so that it's optimized to fit in a tweet. 500 million registered users in 2012, 1 in 10 most visited websites last year in the world, 1.6 billion search queries a day. This is access online as well through an app. So you might think of Twitter, if you're familiar with it, as just being a place where people go to talk, to bitch, to follow, to to complain, to talk about common movies or discuss movies or actors or whatever the topic of conversation, your sports teams or whatever. What you do is you can follow people. So you could follow certain celebrities, and when they put their thought out there, it'll pop up on your phone. Some people like to follow comedians because certain comedians will pop something funny out there every now and then, and it gives you a nice chuckle. What I like to use Twitter for is promoting, promoting our industry. What you guys should be using Twitter for is Twitter, to me, in one way, has become the news service for the new millennium. Traditional news services, I think, are just inadequate to serve us at this point. Like the timeliness is just not there the way we need it. We expect things to be immediate now. And that's one of the things the internet has really facilitated. Back in the day, you had to wait until the news came out at 10 o'clock at night or at 6 o'clock at night to find out anything. But, and then it got a little better with websites, and the news would pop up on websites in between the news on TV. But it's still not immediate enough. My example is I drove down the street several months ago, really close to me in my community. There were like 6 to 8 police cars in front of this house, and I'm nosy. It's my neighborhood. It's my I want to know what's going on. And of course, there's nothing on the news about it. There's nothing obviously in the newspaper until tomorrow about it. I want to know right now what's going on. I went on Twitter and I typed in police cars and my town name, and I got like 10 tweets on people that were on the scene saying what was happening. And this became really evident recently. There was a huge fire in the New York City area. I can't remember if it was Brooklyn or the Bronx, but a really horrible, horrible fire. And the whole fire unfolded, the whole news story unfolded on Twitter. And it happened as people, were there posting pictures of it and, tweeting thoughts and saying, what was happening. And suddenly now everybody is not just putting their thoughts out there and bashing movies or whatever. Now every one of you, everyone in the world is essentially an online on-the-scene reporter. I mean, the second somebody puts up a thought or puts up a tweet on something, you're reporting. And so, you do have to take it with a grain of salt because you don't know who these people are, and they're maybe not accredited reporters. But a picture's a picture, and the person there is there. And so my point of this is a news source. It's a community source. It's a way for you to kind of keep a gauge on what's going on in real time and what's going on in your world and in your community. So we covered what it's used for and the way that you can follow it. But here's where I think I'm going to give you some basics and discuss how, and then discuss how I think you can use it. So some of the key things that you're seeing or hearing, and you might not get it, hashtags. That's the third one down. We'll get to that in a second. So the first one is 140 characters. You can see over here on the right, these are tweets, right? Copiers in Maryland. Here's this guy's got Copiers in Maryland, innovative copier product sales and service, Copiers MFPs. He's just putting out there as like a commercial. I don't agree with how he's doing it, but the bottom line is he's doing something. His phone number's out there. His name's out there. I think there are better, more effective ways to do this. Toshiba CBS Copier, same idea. They're just trying to put a little bullet of information out there. I don't think it's effective the way they're doing it. And we can talk. I can work with you to show you how to do this more effectively in a way that'll make you seen, but I don't think people typically will find these unless you're doing them properly. And one of the ways to do that is this hashtagging, which I'll talk about. The next thing down from characters, the 140 characters, is that @ symbol. So you may see all over the place, at Xerox.com, at Copiers Maryland. That's the address. That's the name of the company. So each one of you, as part of your Twitter strategy, you're all going to want to go out and get a Twitter account, either for you personally or for your company. And you should have both because they can kind of play off of each other. Like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to humanize your company, and one of the ways to do that is to engage with people, engage with conversations as that company. You know, I don't see this Copiers in Maryland person doing that with this type of account, but they may do that in other accounts. I'll show you a dealer that I think is doing a great job at it, and it's just perfect. It's a perfect example, and we'll get to that in the next page. The next one is, so the @ symbol, my symbol is @ASlowetsky. So you'll be able to copy that and put it into Twitter and then follow me. And then what happens is every time I tweet any news about the industry, you get it right to your phone immediately, right? So Xerox does something, comes out with a new machine. The CEO of one of the, of HP quits. Anything big that happens, you'll hear about it from me immediately. So follow me if once you get set up on Twitter. I keep saying it, hashtag, we're finally there. Hashtag is something that's kind of confusing. It's become this like phrase that people throw around, oh, hashtag LOL, hashtag this, hashtag that, and you don't really know what it means. What hashtag does is it allows you to create common groupings of tweets based on a word that's highlighted in the tweet. So if I'm tweeting about copiers, when I say, at the end of Copiers in Maryland, innovative copier products, what I would do is where it says Copiers in Maryland, I would do hashtag Copiers in Maryland. So now, what that does on a mobile device, when you get into Twitter, you'll see this. But on a mobile device, you're going to see that Copiers in Maryland, that word copiers is going to be a hyperlink, right? It's going to be blue, which means I can tap on it. Because you put that hashtag in front of it, it makes everything a hashtag. It makes everything a hyperlink, and then I can tap it. And when I tap it, it's going to bring up every other article, every other thing that was tweeted that also had the word copiers, hashtag copiers tweeted with it, right? So it's a way for you to make your tweet get picked up. And you may not get any value out of doing hashtag copiers, but why I'm explaining this to you is what you'll want to do is do hashtag Rochester if you live in Rochester. You'll want to see what's going on in Rochester, and that's a great way to do it. You can see who's talking about things. You can see maybe your competitor's got something going on. You could see, just anything that's happening, anything going down in your community. And I read a really good book, and it talked about using social media not necessarily to shove product down somebody's throat, but to keep popping your name in front of people. And that's what this is all about. You're going to use your Twitter account, A, to monitor your community, B, to promote yourself, but you're not going to promote yourself by putting, in my opinion, putting a brochure up there. You're not going to put the BizHub 356 is just launched, and nobody cares, right? But you'll put your name in front of people if you talk about the local baseball game last night. Like if you're in the New York City area and the Yankees won, congratulations to Tanaka in his win last night. Or, congratulations to Jeter on a great hit, or, just something like that. And, if you hashtag it right, you'll get into the Yankees feed. Or if you're in the local Rochester market, or Rochester Red Wings, or the Rochester, or Genesee Brewery, or whatever it is, do things that are local to your community that'll put your name in front of that local community. Join conversations as your dealership's Twitter handle. But, the handle is just a handle. When you're choosing your handle, couple of things I want you to remember. You want to have it short. You want to have it really short because you're limited to 140 characters, right? So, like I said, you're gonna search for your city. When you make that Twitter handle, you can see here, like my company's name is Industry Analysts Inc. Right? I don't want to have @Industry Analysts Inc. As my Twitter handle. It's too many letters. Slowetsky is bad enough. Right? But what happens is Slowetsky becomes Industry Analyst. So my Twitter handle does not necessarily have to be my company's name. Keep that in mind when you're creating a handle. Right? So again, you want it to be short. Regular search your city, see what's going on. Feel free to comment on local conversations where appropriate. Ideas for dealers, right? Use it for your promotion. I mentioned before, how much would it cost for you to put your name in front of your community, your name and company during the 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock news? Now you can do it for free because Twitter is free. Again, back to learning how to maximize your tweets, make sure that they get seen. You're going to want to learn about hashtagging and using and including other people in the process. You'll put if you were tweeting something about me, I would never see it. You'll want to put my name in it. So you'd want to put @Slowetsky in any tweet mentioning me, so that pops up on my screen, and now I know I was mentioned. And now I can join in the conversation because you sort of are inviting me. But those are one-on-one conversations I'd be happy to have with any of you guys. You want to announce your open houses. You want to announce community service, like I mentioned before. Again, talking about the sports team. Just talk about anything that's relevant in your community. I would suggest a minimum of 1 to 2 tweets per week at least. You want to keep a presence. The worst thing you could do, in my opinion, similar to LinkedIn, is join up, sign up, and then have no tweets. Saw a great article written by a senior vice president of one of the major manufacturers. Great article. And at the end, it said, follow me on Twitter. And I went right over to Twitter, and I was like, there's a company that gets it. Put his Twitter handle in there, and he wrote this great article on digital. And I went over to his Twitter handle to add him, and he had like 3 people on there, and he had like 4 tweets. And I thought, here's a guy who's supposed to be like Mr. Techie and Mr. Advanced, and he barely exists. And it's almost like, they should have probably built that up a little before they started promoting it. And so you guys are going to want to, it's easy to start doing something and then lose interest and then not do it anymore. You don't want to do that because there's a timestamp on everything that you do. And so your last tweet shouldn't be from 3 months ago or from 2 years ago. You want to do it once or twice a week. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can get a secretary, you can get a receptionist in your office to do it. Just somebody needs to do something to put something out there once or twice a week. Again, don't tweet product info. I just don't believe in it. I don't think anybody's ever going to buy anything from you because you put a brochure out there. I will say, if you can put a video out there that includes your products in it somehow, commercial perhaps, with an engaging headline that gets me interested enough to click on it, that's a different approach, and I don't have any problem with that. I think that's a really smart approach in a lot of ways. So we're flying through this. The next one is Facebook. You all know what Facebook is. I'm going to kind of breeze through this one. And one of the things I wanted to just kind of mention with Facebook, I never really believed that Facebook was a business platform. I felt like this is social and LinkedIn is business, and I never really got into it. And I've changed my mind, and it was a couple of the books I read, really talked about it. It doesn't matter if you believe it. If other people are on it, if other people are looking at it, then you need to be there. Truth of the matter is 1 in 5 web pages looked at in this country, in the U.S., are looked at on Facebook, are seen on Facebook. You need to be on there. There are good ways of doing it. There are better ways of doing it. Some of the manufacturers do a really good job of it. Toshiba does a great job on their Facebook page. Kyocera does a very, very good job on it. Some of the others, there's room for improvement. Some do an okay job as well. Most people either access it online or through the app. Here's a perfect example of a company I think that's doing a great job. My neighbors over in Buffalo, an hour and a half down the road, Copier Fax Business Technologies. This is a picture of their Facebook page. Look how awesome that is. First of all, it's a picture in downtown Buffalo. They're highlighting that it's spring in Buffalo. They've got pictures of blooming flowers, but guess what? There's a little snapshot of their building behind it. You're going to use this to promote your dealership and publicize events, place pictures, encourage comments. You're going to want, again, similar to Twitter, you're going to want 1 to 2 updates per week. You're also going to want to watch this for negative activity because people can come in and post stuff about you that are really, mean-spirited. Your competitors can do it. You're going to want to, make sure that you're on top of this and looking at this every day because nothing will make you look more foolish than to see a post that's been up there for a week, saying that you guys are awful and you should never do business with them. One of the things, I think that's really impressive about this page, these guys have 457 likes. Likes are important because likes mean that people are engaging with you. And so he's got 457 people on there. Any customer who winds up on this Facebook page is going to look at this and go, wow, they've got a lot of customers that must really love them. Because it's certainly not 400 people working there. Recent posts I saw on here that I really liked, they were doing a Buffalo Bisons, the local baseball team, a ticket giveaway, photos of spring in Buffalo. They had a bunch of photos of the flowers, and they happen to be a really cool building in a very cool part of town. So they kind of had that in the back of some of the photos, but really smartly done. And in the middle of all this, there's a case study for DocuWare and just really nice. It didn't say DocuWare case study. It just said, a little line on check out how this solution improved the charter school's workflow. And that's the book that I really like is called Jab, 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 Punch. Right? And that's the whole point of this. You're jabbing with Buffalo Bison tickets. You're jabbing with photo pictures and pictures reminding everybody who's looking at your page that you're local, that you're part of this community, that you're not just some, some big branch somewhere and part of some big evil empire, that you're, a local company and you're in this community just like everyone else. You're rooting for the same sports teams. And then, the punches, that DocuWare case study, or a video from, from Lexmark or from Konica or some of the other products that they sell. Or some local news about them was also in there. They were in the local paper with some recognition. So all these different things are on there. Some of them are just hey, kind of cool. And, it gives me kind of a nice warm fuzzy feeling when I look them up on Facebook. Believe me, your customers may look you up. They want to see what other people are saying, and yes, you can control it. And so it's not really a good gauge of how relevant you are and how good of a copier company you are. But it's all about impression. When I go back to this page, you look at that. You tell me that doesn't look a good, successful company. I mean, I know it is, so I'm going to tell you it is, but it could be anybody. And that's the beauty of the Internet, or the horror of the Internet, is that anybody can be anybody they want as long as they put in the effort and spend time to do it. A couple of the last ones I'm just going to cover more quickly. Yelp. Yelp is something you do need to stay on top of. You'll want to, it's an urban guide, essentially giving you listings of businesses and ratings from people who have used those businesses. There is a lot of skepticism around Yelp in the business world. There is the possibility that as many as 20% of the reviews are fake. But that means that, if that's a high estimate, that means that over 80% of them are legit, and there's thousands and thousands of these Yelps on there. So basically, it's just a place where people can come and rate you and tell everybody else what they thought of your business. You'll go to Yelp.com. You want to add or claim your business. And then you want to monitor reviews. I would encourage a couple of your good customers to just write them a review. Tell them to come out to lunch if you'll write you a nice review, because people do look at Yelp. I was in Las Vegas on one of these trips. I stayed in one of the major hotels. It was gross. The room was disgusting. I told the person when I was checking out, when she asked the place, I told her I had a really bad experience, and she said, "Oh, that's too bad," and that was it. And so I flamed them on Yelp. I had a response from a manager there within an hour, and an offer to please come back at our expense, which I may or may not do. But you know what? I was really impressed that they were monitoring that and that they cared enough to have me come back in, so that the goal is hopefully I will rewrite or edit my Yelp. And that, to you, is the opportunity. It's really sweet for you guys to have awesome reviews out there from happy customers. But you know what I think is even better? A customer that was having a horrible day that flamed you on Yelp, you got on, contacted them privately, by the way. Don't do this in a public forum, but you can message them privately through Yelp. Message them, find out what the problem was. Go in and visit them. Say, what can we do to make this better? And if there's something that you can do to fix it, they'll turn around and they will reevaluate their Yelp. And when people see that you fixed this, or when people read his comments or her comments and say, "We were having a really bad day, the copier was running horribly, the president of the company got involved, came out here himself to fix it, and I couldn't be happier, and they really changed my mind. I have nothing but respect for these guys." You know what? That means more than anything, because that meant that, first of all, you're taking care of your customers. Second of all, you are paying attention to what's going on out there outside of your copier sales world. You're watching to see what people are saying about you, what's going on in the community. People care about that, but people more than anything want someone to feel like, you want to feel like somebody gives a shit, right? I mean, you want somebody to call you up and say, "Look, I saw that you were unhappy with us. I'm really sorry. What can we do?" And you'd be surprised at how powerful something like that can be. There are going to be people out there that are going to flame you, and there's just nothing you can do about it. You may have customers out there that flame you, and there's nothing you can do about it. You might be able to go through Yelp to get it removed if you have some kind of evidence. But Yelp is one you'll wanna definitely pay attention to. Maybe not participate in so much, but definitely pay attention to, because it's very valuable for companies like you. The last ones here that we'll cover, Pinterest. Pinterest is sort of like a virtual bulletin board where you can just sort of pin things up, like recipes and pictures and things like that. It's huge with women. I do have a Pinterest account. I like it for recipes. I cook for my kids all the time. But as far as your world, I don't know how you could use it. I'm showing you these because these are big ones out there, and don't ignore them. You might figure out a way to make them work for you. Vine is something that's really cool. I'm going to show you if this works. A Vine is a moving loop. So you can see this Vine. This just it can be a cartoon. Xerox had this one made, and it's kind of nice because you can put it on your website and it just plays. It's sort of like an ongoing commercial. You can also make vines from video. You've probably seen them and not even realized it. You know, any video that you just see 2 seconds or a few seconds of something and that starts over at the beginning and just keeps playing and playing, that's called a vine. YouTube is a video sharing website. It's owned by Google. You're probably aware of it. You guys should be doing YouTube videos. They don't have to be fancy. They don't have to be crazy. It's just something else that you can do to make yourself real. You know, it could be just video of you guys walking around at your holiday party or at a customer open house. You know, just an interview with some customers at your open house. Little things like that. It could be you know, a presentation of a product in your house. Maybe you saw you know, one of the Ricoh presses, the C901. You want to do a quick overview. Here's an overview of it. You know, put it on your website. You want to take advantage of everything you've already done. So if you've got videos on your website, you want to leverage those. There are ways for you to put those into your tweets. There are ways for you to put those into your Facebook pages. You know, what I want to stress here is one of the key things to really doing this and doing it right is you want to make sure you're reusing and repurposing all of the content that you're already putting together. You know, you've already got a lot of content out there. You may already have some videos. You may already have brochures and things like that, and case studies or access to case studies. I know you all have access to that. You know, these are all things that you can use. It's just a matter of getting your arms around it and laying this out into a strategy and saying, I'm going to do 3 Facebook page posts a week. I'm going to do, you know, 3 tweets a week. I'm going to search every day on Twitter to see what's going on in my community. Google Plus is another one you need to be on. Google Plus is Google's version of Facebook, and I don't know that I would be on it other than the fact that it wasn't owned by Google, but it's the second biggest one in the world, and a lot of what gets put up into Google's web page search results comes from, is tied in one way or another to your Google Plus account. So if you can promote, you know, you're using SEO to promote your company and your website, that's one side of it. The other side is every one of those posts that you do on Facebook, you should also do on Google Plus. Have a mirror account on Google Plus and just do the exact same thing, because those posts on Google Plus will help your company become more recognized. It will help reinforce those searches that are being done on you guys, on your content. It'll help your company come up more, etc. So where do we go from here? I really feel like we rushed through this, and I apologize if it was too quick. But you know, where do we go from here? Here's your social media strategy. You want to evaluate your strategy in the areas that we talked about. LinkedIn. You want to have a LinkedIn strategy. You want your reps using that for their cold calling. You want you using that for your networking and for your company's you know, for the perception that your customers will have of you after seeing you on there. You want to have a LinkedIn strategy. You do want to have a Facebook, I should also say Facebook/Google Plus, but a Facebook Google Plus strategy. Others you might want to leverage and take advantage of, YouTube and Vimeo. I didn't mention it, but Vimeo is an American company, very similar, almost identical to YouTube, essentially. Just another place where you can host your videos for free. You want to do Vines. If you want to do them, get somebody creative. Some of the kids that you guys are working with, you have working for you, some of these new reps coming out of college, I guarantee you a lot of them know how to make a Vine. So if there's something funny, something cute, something they can just let them be creative. If they can put something out there that's a Vine that's relevant to your company, to what you do, or that can put you guys in sort of a humorous way and might be something that in the community gets shared around a little bit. The idea with all the social media is to just put your name in front of as many people as often as possible so that people start to recognize you, so that you're the household name in your community. So that when people say copiers in Buffalo, New York, people think, oh, Copier Facts, who else would I call? Back to all this, when you look at my local community and you look at the search results that I showed you and who came up, I think it's like that in most communities. I don't think as an industry, not just our industry, but I think most industries haven't realized that you can't just keep doing it the way you've done it forever. You're spending all this money on Yellow Page ads, or maybe you're not anymore, I don't know, but when was the last time people called you from the Yellow Pages? You're going to get more calls from Google than you'll ever get from the Yellow Pages, in my opinion these days. And, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. you're going to want to evaluate your in-house capability versus outside consulting. I would recommend outside consulting. That person I mentioned earlier that spends $500 a month on SEO optimization, they also spend another $500 a month on social media. They have, I don't know if it's the same guy or a different guy, but that guy works on their behalf, sends out 2 or 3 tweets a week, 2 or 3 Facebook pages a week. He controls all that for them. They don't have to do a thing. It's turnkey. They spend a lot of money on it, but now they look like the biggest and baddest in their market, right? I mean, you know, you're competing for space on Facebook with Xerox and Konica and Ricoh, you know, and Kyocera and all these guys. So you know, you've got to do things that make yourself stand out and promote you as being who you are, and that is, you know, a local reseller of all these, you know, major brands from some of the biggest companies in the world, the most advanced technology companies in the world. I do have a plug here, shameless plug. I am available for consulting. I will evaluate your current processes. You know, we'll look at where you come up in all the search engine. You know, we'll put together a nice report on areas I think you need to improve. I'll evaluate your website. I'll evaluate your Facebook strategy and recommend, you know, what you could do unique to yourself, unique to your community, that might make you stand out a little bit more. I'll help you with your Twitter strategy, your LinkedIn strategy, all that good stuff. You know, any feedback, any suggestions that I can make to you, that'll all be part of it. And, you know, if we can get you scheduled to run through something like this before September 1st, we'll give you guys a 20%. Anyone on this call will get a 20% discount. So, you know, my contact information is in this. You'll all get a copy of this. It's downloadable. And we're finally at the questions. I will stay on for a little while. We didn't go too far over. I'm sorry again, but here's my questions time. So.
Well, very good, Andy. Lots of great information there. And yes, there are a few questions. I'll read those aloud to you in a moment. But the first one, I guess I can address myself. The question was, will these PowerPoint slides be available? And as Andy mentioned, yes, they are. If you go to the BTA website, bta.org/buildingmybusiness, you'll see a link on that page where you can download today's PowerPoint presentation so that you'll have that. I had to kind of chuckle here. I did get an invite on LinkedIn. I'm looking at my phone here from somebody who's on the call. When Andy, you mentioned my LinkedIn profile, then I got an invite, and I'm looking at Paul. He's in Greensboro. I can see the groups he's in. He's involved in the University of North Carolina Greensboro Alumni Association with 2,700 members. He is in sales, so I got to think that he's probably connected with some of his prospects through that alumni association. So there's a good example of what you're talking about at work. So
here we go.
Yeah. So I'll read the questions here that we received. How much? I'll just read them aloud. You can address them. How much should a company spend a month for social media, for a social media strategy?
So I think part of it is unique to your market and who you're able to find and bring it on. I would use the benchmark that I told you, because this is a pretty reputable dealer and a good-sized dealer, big authorized dealer, a couple different brands, probably not a lot different than you. I would say he's a medium to large size dealer. He's spending $500 a month on his search engine optimization, and that includes having somebody go over that every month, resubmit everything, and making sure that he's in the top 3 in his market. And then the other bit of that is he spends $500 a month to have somebody actually take over the social media portion of that as well. So you can expect to spend maybe $1,000. Now I will tell you, you can find very talented people, younger people, desperate people willing to work, as an extra thing, a few extra bucks on the side. You might be able to get it cheaper. The end result is, and you can always change. If you're paying a lot and you expect a lot, you should get a lot. And it's very easy to decide if you're getting what you're paying for, right? I mean, the results are your Twitter followers, are your tweets being seen? Are they being favorited? Are they being retweeted, which may not happen so much in our world, but people will favorite them. People will start adding you and following you on Twitter. Facebook, how many times is something seen? You can see not just how many times is it clicked on, but how many times something is actually looked at, because when you post something, anybody who likes your Facebook page, now anything you post comes up in their feed. So you can start to see, as you start doing this more and more, how successful something is. And if you start logging in and you're not seeing any results, well, then you know you need to find somebody else. If you're logging in and you're seeing great results, you're getting your money's worth, and you should be happy. So this is a very, very measurable process. You know, I don't know that I would necessarily go out and find some major, huge brand name company right off the bat. I would probably look for, you know, try to find word of mouth. Talk to people I work with and see if they know anybody. Talk to, you know, maybe do some searches on companies that I know locally where I have connections with these people and see how they come up. And you know, that's when I would say, who's doing your stuff for you? Who's doing, you know, and that's how I would go about finding it. But I would say a good benchmark would be, you know, $500 a month for search engine optimization. You might have a hefty, you know, first-time upfront fee for them to initially do it, probably I would guess a couple grand maybe. But ongoing should probably be give or take 500, and then, you know, if you wanted to pay someone to do your other stuff. Personally, the social media, I would spend some time consulting with you on why I felt this way, but from a 30,000-foot view, I really feel like that should be in-house because it's got to be very personal. It really should be what's going on in your company. And if somebody outside the company can do that and is close enough to you that, you know, or talks to you enough that they can do that on your behalf effectively, then that's great. But I don't know. I look at myself and think, I don't know that I could have somebody else do my own tweets, do my own, because I don't think people know enough about me, about my company, or what I'm trying to accomplish to do it as effectively as I can do it. But that's a personal decision. So I'd say $500 a month for each of those.
Yeah. All right. Another question. This was actually one of the first questions that came in, and it was when you were talking about what you just referenced, search engine optimization. The question is, if all the local dealers do this, how do I know if my company is going to be listed near the top? So
well, you find the person who does it the best, and that's the bottom line. And just because your guy's the best right now, don't stop watching it, because like I said earlier, the rules change constantly, especially with Facebook, but Google too, big time. And the guy might be king of the world that's doing your competitors, but the woman doing yours, you know, may have a really good understanding of what's coming, and you know, she's moving you up, moving you up, moving up. As long as you're seeing progress, as long as you're seeing yourself move up a spot or two each time, you know, each month, you want to move up. And when you stagnate and you hit a wall, you know, you need to talk to them and say, look, if you can't get me up any further, I understand. You can only do so much. But it's you know, it's about finding the right person to do it, and it is challenging. But when you look at the David versus Goliath example that I showed you of that little remanufacturing dealer in my town coming up before Xerox and Toshiba and Icon, it shows you that, you know, somebody who knows what they're doing, they can do more than, you know, more than anybody. I mean, it's just the proof is in the pudding. Just, you know, you're gonna have to find somebody. You're gonna have to roll the dice with them, and then, you know, then you make your decision. It's not working, we move on to somebody else. But the key is you got to stay on top of it, and you just got to keep working to find that right person. Eventually, you will.
All right, very, very good, Andy. As I read through some of the other questions, they are, I'm going to kind of the nature that probably be handled offline, kind of some specific questions about a dealership, et cetera. So when you're on the BTA website, I mentioned earlier the bta.org, Building My Business, I would encourage you to go ahead and register while you're there for our next Building My Business webinar. That occurs at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, June the 18th. Now that webinar is titled Your Dealership's Checkup, What's Next? It will be presented by Mike Lisek, who's president of Collaborative Consultant Group. So I'm going to wait here and just see if I see any new questions pop up. Some of the questions had to do, are there resources available to help? Well, here's the question. Do you know of a resource available to learn to do your own or SEO? So I don't know. I'm trying to recall, Andy, whether you've referenced that or not in the last few minutes.
I did not.
Okay.
SEO is tricky. There are some basic things you can do. There are plugins if you're using WordPress that can help with that. I use WordPress on mine. I have some decent SEO. I don't personally invest outside. I'm trying, you know, I like to do it myself, and I probably should invest outside, and maybe someday I will. But my results have been good, and they've gone up, and I've seen some progress. But you know, beyond the plugin, you really will want to bring in an expert. You can research it, but what happens to me when I try to research it personally, there's books on it. You could always go get a good book on it, but it's overwhelming how much information is out there. And I've got a business to run, and I just don't have, the WordPress plugin was beautiful because overnight my results got a huge shot in the arm when I started doing that. And it was a free plugin, and I just added it in there. If you know how to use WordPress, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you don't, and the people who work for you are running it, they'll know what I'm talking about. But those plugins are free, and that'll help a little bit. That's not going to get you to the top. You need to get a professional who understands how to play the game. And if you've got time to fiddle on the side and do it yourself, God bless you. Go for it. And I hope it works. But it can be very challenging. And the hardest part is just if that's not your main field of work, it's tough to stay ahead of the pack, right? It's tough to stay on top of all of the current rules, so to speak. So there is no shortage of material. If you just Google SEO optimization how-to, you'll find it.
Okay, well, very good. And I appreciate that. Let me see if there's any other questions here. I'm in California. Do you consult long distance? So that's specifically to you, Andy.
Yeah, I do. Most of what I don't necessarily have to come out there. I would come to anybody's location if you wanted to put the travel in on top of it. But most of this, I can analyze and talk to you via webinar, via just like this. So. And
why don't you go back one slide, Andy? Because I think on the slide before this is where your email address is. I think I saw it there a moment ago. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah, so Andy at industryanalyst.com. I could have got you just to repeat that. I didn't know if your phone number was on there or not. But
it's plural, so it's plural. Yeah. So make sure you put the S at the end.
Industry analyst. So reach out to Andy, and he'd be glad to connect with you.
And make sure you're getting my newsletter. Definitely email me to add yourself to the newsletter list. It's free. It'll keep you up to date with what's going on. At the very least, you'll know everything that's happening in this industry.
Yeah. Well, Andy, we really appreciate your willingness to present today. As I was going through this or listening to it, I was thinking about an article I just wrote that's in the May issue of Office Technology. The cover story was a millennial mindset, and it had to do with some of these things, but the importance of social media, but maybe on a broader scale, the reality that our workforce is changing, and it's going to continue to change. And right now I'm looking at my article. There are currently 77 million millennials, and these are individuals born between 1977 and 1995. So 19 to 37-year-olds, and so particularly on the lower end of that, that's the individuals that we all see everywhere with their hands looking on their phones and using social media regularly. And I keep thinking about how it's not going to be too many years from now that these are the individuals that are making the decisions in the workplace for, what office technology to acquire and how it's implemented in the workforce. And so, all the more important for all of us to be thinking about the use of social media.
Absolutely. Stay ahead of the curve. I mean, we had some salespeople that back in my day were probably the best salespeople ever in their day, but they were old and they didn't use I don't know, I can't even think of some of the advanced things we did because they were not advanced anymore, but, we look at these guys as dinosaurs because they were old, right? They didn't get the way things were now. They didn't use a beeper, and they didn't have a cell phone, believe it or not, and they refused to get one, and it's like, and I think if I was a customer looking at these guys, and here's this guy talking about technology, and he's 100 years old, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with technology, I probably wouldn't trust him for my technology. And this generation that's coming up, they are all about social media. I mean, they may use one, and then another one may use another, but they're all using something, and they're communicating with each other, and it's just the way of the world now. And the phone book is dead, and if you're spending money on that, I think there's a good area for you to maybe pull some funds and just shift them into a media where you're going to get your money's worth.
All right. Well, thank you, Andy.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for the call. Please contact me directly or through Brent. And good luck for the rest of the month, guys. Everybody, you got like 10 days left, so go close some deals.
All right. Thank you, Andy. And if you want to contact me directly for any reason, it's just Brent at bta.org. So We thank you for your participation in today's Building My Business webinar. We look forward to having you on our call in June. And we thank you, of course, as always, for your membership in the association. And with that, we'll go ahead and end today's webinar and say goodbye for now. Thanks.
Thank you.